Get started. So really for this tutorial, guys, you're going to need Photoshop. You can definitely use these Computer Lab computers. They also have Photoshop. However, I've been told that all of our architecture students have basically a free subscription to Photoshop using your EDU account. Right, so the best way that I can show you, what is that? Well, discounted at Adobe? Yeah, this is something completely different. You could do it that route too if you want to invest in yourself and get a cheaper copy. However, there is a free license, at least for the duration of this class, right? And actually, I think it's a duration of 2 years in the College of Architecture, right? However, if you go to I don't have it because I paid for mine. But if you go to ACES, right, you'll sign into the Adobe Creative Cloud, right, with your EDU account, right? So that'll be, if it was me, it'd say c.barrett@student.alamo.edu. So the only other part you're going to need is the password, and that's by default in your web services, right? So just to kind of show you guys that real quick, just because Ray had asked that question. And my password is 977780 today. Awesome. So you'll go down to web services in self-service. It's funny, it still has my student information from when I was a student. As long as it loads. Maybe there's just a lot of people on ACES account right now.
Yeah, it's
doing something too. Yeah, so it might be updating. We'll let that sit there and see what it does. But again, you'll actually see something that says email password, and it's a generated password. Copy that. That is your password for Adobe, right? However, what does the discount look like, Will? That's pretty good. Is that a month or?
$20 per month.
That's not too bad.
After a year, it goes to 30.
It's not bad when you consider it used to be $900 for,
Yeah, no, it's considerably more.
However, if you have it for 10 years, then it's about the same. So,
I'm sorry, what did you say about Creative Cloud? I know it's
You would just download Adobe Creative Cloud.
okay.
So type in Adobe Creative Cloud and Google, download.
No, I have it. I have
Oh,
a
okay.
personal one, and it kind of always messes it up, so I have to pay back the rent.
Oh, always use your EDU account
Okay.
for sure. So yeah, it looks like that's taking a little while. However, let's continue to the actual demonstration. So we're going to open up Photoshop, and first things first, I'm basically just going to go to File, Automate, and I believe it's in here, or it might be Import. Yeah, sorry, Import Video Frames to Layers. Right, that is key. So essentially, we just need to upload those videos. As you guys know, the final of this assignment is 3 by 3 inches exactly, right? So there's a couple of tools we can use in Photoshop to make sure that it is exactly 3 by 3. I'll go with one of these videos and click Open, right? Video could not be because of the command is no longer video frames. I know why, because it's an Apple product, right? And it doesn't even want to open on an Apple product. Here's a bit of a longer demonstration, but we'll go through it. There's this tool called Handbrake. It's available for Windows and Macintosh. It's free, and it converts any video. It's actually a really nice tool if you're ever doing this, really. So in our case, I'll open up Handbrake. I'll select Open Source. Again, select that video. That is a MOV file, a movie file. Movie files and Photoshop, I guess they don't like each other. That's okay. So in our case, we're going to change it to an MP4, right? However, we could change it to just about anything. There's also multiple presets, like just in case you wanted to upload something somewhere else, right? Or super fast HD, HQ, whatever. However, by default, it is at an MP4. And let's go ahead and rasterize that real quick. So I'll want to put it to my desktop. Awesome. and I'll basically just press play. This will basically convert the video file for us. And based on how fast or slow your computer is, it definitely goes accordingly. However, I forgot to mention that you can also use a burst mode when you're taking these photos too. However, that's a little bit harder and it makes a lot of photos to go through, right? So be very careful about that. The reason I like this method is, well, first, anybody could sort of take a video. Second, you can easily upload the video and take frames from it, right? As we were mentioning last time, there's 30 frames per second, right? And maybe even in this video, it's probably 60 frames a second. Did it already finish? Did I never hit start? Oh, wow, it's already done. Nice. So we'll take that other. In my case, it should be this guy right here. And of course, the video's been changed, right? Is this me trying to do a kick? Nice. That's a pretty sweet motion. I was pretty known for my ollies back in the day too, but I think she even said, "Oh my god." Anyway, so we'll go to Photoshop again. Let's try that again. So we'll go to File, Import, Video Frames to Layers. I have a feeling it will like the MP4, and it does. Sweet. So from here, we basically, well, we can even trim it, right? So we can go, well, don't start until a certain area, and you can kind of watch the video if you will. Obviously, I don't want a bunch of frames that have nothing in it, so I'm going to get pretty close and move my edge to that, right? Then obviously, I don't want a bunch of frames after, so I'll stop it there, right? And I probably should have got out of the square on that one, so probably take 2 on that one. But now we have a much more comparable length, right? And we can limit to every other frame too. So we could say I just want every 2 frames. In my case, I'd kind of want to do a calculation based on how many seconds this was, right? So if I had 16 seconds, right, I would want to do one every 90 frames, right? So let me just show you what that means. Obviously, we want a selected area, limit it to every. Let's try 9 real quick. I tried 30 once and it gave me like 3. For some reason it stretched it, and I have a feeling it's because of the box. It really shouldn't do that though. However, what's nice is once we click on these little eyeballs, right, but it didn't quite get the motion that I wanted. Right, so let's try that again, and let's make sure that it's not going to crop like this as well. No, don't save. In fact, I'll do File, I'll do a new document. That way I can actually match the ratio of the image itself. So in my case, eventually I'm going to need a square, so I might as well put it as a square. I'm going to go with a 3x3 inch and create it. Then I'll try and do File, Import, Video Frames to Layers. Selected range again. Fake until I make it. Let's try 7. So get every 7th frame. However, it's still squished it on us, which I guess is okay, but not really, because we do want that to stay 2 frame. Let me see what's going on. It's never done that before. Let me see if there's an option in there. I might have missed something. I wonder if I actually changed, well, maybe it's a good learning situation. Let's go to image size. That's actually what controls this, and the canvas size is what controls this. So I can click on image size and I can rework it, right? And if we, man, I can't remember the number ratio. Do you guys remember the number ratio of an iPhone screen? I think it's like the portrait. It's like 9:16. 16:9. Thank you. So let's try that real quick. Let's try it real quick. But clearly we can change the canvas size. right? To fit the ratio of that, because I don't want to mess it up too much, right? So let's try that again. Import video frames to layers. Usually it actually maintains the scaling, right? I definitely don't want kind of really squished. You know, we want those boxes, that square, that diamond, or that triangle to, of course, be the exact shape that it is. Try this again. Not sure why the preview's not popping up, but it could be because I'm recording screen. So, make frame animation. Maybe let's take that off and see what happens. 7 seemed like a good number, so I'm gonna try that. Wow, it really just stretches it no matter what. However, I think you get the picture, right? To say the least. Let's actually try and backtrack this real quick, because it completely changed the image size based on the video itself. Let's go with, I gotta unlock this so that it doesn't stay proportional, and let's go with 9 by 16. I don't know if that's gonna make it worse or better. It's kind of just indifferent. Not gonna lie to you, I have no idea why it's a square. Is anybody following along and trying to do the same thing in Photoshop? Try it out and see if it's still giving you a square as well. It may have something to do with the video that it converted. However, actually I should double check and click on the video. Right, the video actually may have been converted to a square, so let's double check. I don't see anything that says dimensions 1080p. I may have accidentally messed up the ratio, and that just might be why that it's actually off. Let's see. Get the there we go. Let's double click on the video. No, it does seem like the right scale. Let's try one more thing. That was weird. Don't save. Let's try that again. Oh, import from. That'd be kind of nice. Add documents, take photo. Pretty interesting. Images from device. Nope, it's definitely video frames to layers. I'll tell you that much. However, I don't see anything that says maintain scale. Make frame animation. I guess we could try some options. When in doubt, try something different, right? I think in this case it's actually going to get every single frame. Yeah, that's what I thought. So obviously I do want to skip every 7th frame. Otherwise, again, I'm going to have thousands of frames here. Which, again, I only need 16. Let's try something else. Can I crop it? No. Let's try the canvas size. Right, so we tried image size. Let's try canvas size. This may entail the problem. So let's try this. 9 by 16. Proceed. Nice. However, still squished. Well, there is an easy way to at least make them all congruent at the same time. So let's start from the beginning without the errors, and obviously you can at least see what I'm doing. Let's try it again. Import video frames to layers. 7 was looking pretty good. This range wasn't too bad. And it looks like we kind of have a sizing issue. However, since we know that we're supposed to have a perfect square, we might be able to use that. So let's go ahead and do so. In my case, It's a little bit more work, but I can do Command T. And of course, if I don't hold Shift, I can manipulate the drawing itself. Not too bad. However, the trouble is I've got to do that over and over again. However, if I've lined up one, it's a lot easier to line up to the other, right? Now in my case, I'm making sure that I don't hold Shift and basically lining it up to that piece again. I wonder if it's some of my settings that I have. That's why I said maybe test it on your own, just because, you know, I've got some funky settings for other stuff that I do. And so it might just be importing my video kind of funky. However, yours might just be absolutely fine, right? So keep that in mind. At least if it does happen to you like this, you at least know how to fix it, right? So again, just Command T or Control T to transform an image. I'll click on that layer that I want to transform, right? And simply match the previous one, right? And what's nice is Photoshop will even sort of like click it in for you. Sorry for the screen flashes. Hopefully that doesn't actually pick up in the recording. It usually doesn't. And enter. Now keep in mind I would need to do that for at least these 19 images. Now I do have 19 images and I do only need 16. So first things first, I need to refine, and let's face it, these last two are kind of about the same. Maybe I get rid of that one. That one's kind of the same. So maybe delete that one. Yes. Alright, so technically I have 18. But as you can imagine, you know, this is a little bit easier to crop. Right, so for instance, I need to actually turn these into squares. So again, I can use the eyedrop, right? And do I have a layer on? Oh, there it is. Sweet. And I actually want to further crop the whole thing because, well, I do want it to be a square. After all, it needs to be a 3x3. So automatically I'm going to be getting rid of something, right, to say the least. Hit enter. And now I have my 3x3 that I need. However, in this case, it's a 8x8. So I still need to further actually fix some things. Like we were doing before, image size or canvas size. And we can simply change it to a 3x3. Right? I can even switch the resolution to be a little bit higher. I'd go with like something like 250 and press enter. What's nice is when we change the image, it'll actually change all of the images too. So as you can see, we're getting into frame. Obviously, I still need to fix some. So I definitely need to fix them before, right? Otherwise, you know, it's just going to be just as messed up. You guys get that? So if you do happen to run into the exact same error that I am, with sort of the funky thing going on, do be sure to transform each of those first. All right, so we can get that dialed in, get that dialed in. However, for the sake of tutorial, definitely don't want to do this all day. However, what's really important is, well, that this should be a square, right? And it is getting pretty close, right, to say the least, right? I mean, you guys nailed it there. Look at that. It could be a little thicker in some areas, a little bit there. It's a little bit wonky there, right? And a lot of this is actually just cog.dis, right? For instance, it looks like you guys kind of followed the line of that curve. Is it really supposed to, or is it actually supposed to dip down that curve a little bit? You see that? So those are kind of the errors that I'm talking about. And the reason is because, well, once we print these out and we post them up on Friday, we should be able to trace them, right? And we'll of course talk about on Friday what we're going to do next with this. However, for the sake of tutorial, what I want to see is at least of my 3 shots, or you know, the 4 shots that I did, I want to get that one shot. Nice. right before. A pretty interesting motion to say the least, but as you can imagine, there's not a lot of information between those two. So I might want to actually select more layers out of my video to, does that make sense, guys? Like I could only show like every 4 frames in the beginning, but then I could show literally every single frame in the middle and then go back to 4 frames for a total of 16 frames, right? But again, back to scaling and size. Basically, I do want to make it a 3x3. So I do want to make sure that it's in inches. And right now it's literally 0 to 16. Now, if you don't have this ruler bar at the top, you can hit Command R and it'll bring it back up, or Control R if you're in Windows. However, again, we changed our image, so we do need to change our canvas size because it changed that. And let's scale that down to 3x3. Really, almost nothing should change except, well, the canvas size, right? So obviously there's some things that I need to do first, right? I need to change the canvas size, or I can show you another trick, right? Say you already did all the work and you accidentally forgot to change it into a 3x3. That's okay, right? Not the end of the world. Honestly, we can export each of these as a regular save file, right? So we can file, save as. We can call it layer number 8, right? Or I could resequence these, double click and call them frame 1, frame 2, frame 3. So in the event that we do that, let's go ahead and save it as a separate image, so a JPEG. I'm going to call it, in my case, frame 8. And let's save a couple of frames. Actually, I should save as. Right. So the way that I'm doing this is, well, I'm starting with my basically last layer. So I'm going File, Save As, go with the JPEG, go with frame 8 or whatever it was, save, save. We go to the next frame, take it off. Right, that's the topmost frame. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, frame 7. So on and so forth, right? Exactly. I'm saving each photo individually. That way I can actually put them all together in another program, right? So as long as you have the Adobe Suite, and again, all of these computers both have Illustrator and Photoshop. So, you know, this isn't the best tool to line up stuff, right? Or to set stuff up for a print, right? So let's go ahead and do that on a program that does it better. Illustrator. So we'll go ahead and open that, and I'll go ahead and close this. Of course, I would save it before, you know, I delete it, but we were running into plenty of issues anyway. But again, those are kind of helpful because honestly, I don't know what you run into, right? Honestly, it might go super smooth for you, perfect, great. However, if you run into issues, at least now you know how to fix it. So we'll go to Illustrator. In my case, it just crashed, so I'll press OK. No, I don't need the recovery. Stop. Stop doing it. Why do computers do that? You always hit cancel or stop, and it's like, no, I'm just going to keep going, man. Look at that. Literally keeps going. Anyway, we want to create new, but it won't let me at the second, so let's give it a second. But now we're getting to the part where what I want you to print for Friday. Now, you could print it all as one piece, or you could print it really tiny and you can pin up each one, right? However, let's face it, 16 times 4, that's a lot of pins, right? So keep that in mind. It's also a really pain in the butt to keep track of 16 in the right order, right? Unless you actually, of course, label them on the back. So of course this is what we're doing in D3, just in case you're wondering. But please close. Sweet. So we're gonna make a new file, and it's gonna be way over here. And this is what I was trying to say. We can either do 3x3s, and we can make 16 of them. All right, so let's try that first. See what that looks like. Not exactly the way I want it to be aligned. So let's try a couple of tools. Let's make it easier for ourselves. Let's try that again. In my case, there's usually actually more settings here. Yeah. Number of artboards, 16. Number of columns, how about just 1? All right, that should make it actually a lot easier for myself. Perfect. There's a perfect line. Even though I actually want it as a row, this is also just the same, right? What's nice about this is gonna print out 16 wonderful photos. So honestly, the easy part is here. I just go to File, Place. However, I think you can only place one at a time. Let's try it out. I know in InDesign you can do multiple, but not sure. So let's get my frame 7, frame 8. Nice. We can take them in at the exact same time. And then of course from here we just need to align that to a 3x3. And I'm holding shift to keep that proportion. If I don't hold shift, obviously it gets pretty whack. So of course make sure that you hold shift to keep it proportional. I'm doing control plus sign to zoom in and control minus sign to zoom out. So very similar to Photoshop. But what's nice is, well, I've got all my frames. They're exactly 3x3. I can double check. Command R. Yep, 0. Yep, 3. Awesome. Right, so I've got all my frames. They're good to go. File, Save As, PDF. And let's go ahead and see what it produces. So we'll call it Frames in Motion, Project 2, and save. It's going to ask me, do I want a high quality print? Hell yeah, I do. Save. Go ahead and minimize that real quick and take a look at what it produced. Is it going to be in other? Where's my PDFs? There we go. So let's go ahead and double click on this PDF. And what's nice is it gets every single picture frame by frame. So if I send it to the printer and I print at 100% scale, now I'm not connected to any printer, so we'll see what this does. But let's say I choose a letter size piece of paper, right? And well, it's going to print them out page by page, and it's not to scale. What scale do you guys think I need to print this as? You guys know? I've made it easy for you. 100, right? That way it's exactly a 3x3 at 100%, right? If I did 200%, what would that be? Yeah, it'd be a 6x6, right? It would double, right? What if I did 50%? What would it be? Exactly, and you guys thought you didn't know scale, right? It's actually right under your nose, and you've used it so many times in your life, but it's always been stuck on a number 10. What usually gets you really kind of confused is when you see 3/32 in the scale. You're like, whoa, 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 fractions, look out, right? And that one's probably the worst one. But as you can see, once I print this out, those will be to scale. Now this gives me a lot of cutting to do, so I don't want to do that. So obviously, at least in a Mac, you can choose the layout, and of course you can do this in Windows too, but it looks a little different, of course. And pages per sheet, let's see, can I fit 4 on a sheet? Nice, not at 100% scale. All right, so be aware, right? It's going to change that scale of the item. Right, maybe I can fit 4. Oh, it flipped the pages for us. Nice. Let's try 16. Right. You can fit all 16 on one page. No, you can't. So you have to rescale it. Right, it's getting the whole piece. Anyway, tons of options in terms of printing. The second thing we could do is, well, what if I just want to print it all on one of these large scale, right? What is 3 times 16? 48 inches, right? So technically I could do, well, this printer goes up to 3 feet, right? Couldn't I just do one long bar of images? Sure, right? And we can actually set up for that in Illustrator. So I'm going to try new. And instead of 16 3x3s, I just want one that is 3 or in our case 48 by 3. Awesome. So what do I do here? Print. Oh, not print. Place. We'll get my 2 frames. Of course, I'll have all 16. What's even nicer is once I get all 16, I can take them all and scale them all together. Right? I don't have to do that one at a time. Get as close as possible. Yeah, fake it till I make it. Sweet. And so on and so forth. But as you can imagine, we're kind of making that thing we saw on Monday, right? With the lady in the umbrella or the man on the horse, right? Similarly, we're making a video in one shot, right? And a single motion in one single image, right? Anyway, definitely plenty of options. Just to kind of recap, we basically took a video into frame, right, using Photoshop, and that was File, Import, Video Frames to Layers. We went over some of the ways that it can go wrong, and so that we can use Transform to fix it. Keep in mind that you only need 16, and you only need 3x3s. I wouldn't recommend that you really change anything in the drawing, like don't try and skew, don't try and like make them all black and white. We do want to be able to see your geometry, right? We want to see you go out of frame to into frame to maybe out again, right? And depending on the level of creativity, you know, you can kind of break those rules, right? We've had people like, you know, like I said, the basketball thing, he did a couple of different ones. He did, you know, sort of tricks. He also threw the ball in the air. That escaped the frame and then it came back into frame, right? So that was pretty interesting. And keep in mind that we're eventually going to diagram each of these shots, right? So you definitely want to be somewhat legible, right? You definitely want to choose a motion where you're like, you definitely know what the head or the foot is doing, right? Not necessarily the entire body, but take a couple of tries, because let's face it, I'm sure you guys have plenty of memory on your phones and can take a couple of shots. Another thing that I noticed in the video, and this is nothing of G's fault, but, you know, kind of just, you know, a message to the class, is don't let the camera move, right? If some of you guys have a tripod or can put the camera against something like this, right? If you can put it against something that holds the camera really still, right? Notice the frame window though, right? How it kind of moves. See how it's moving? That's eventually going to mess with us because we're eventually going to put all these layers together, right? And so we do want it to be not moving, right? And you can kind of see it if I go really fast. See how the camera's moving? Definitely don't want that. So just keep that in mind. That was weird. Any questions, guys?
You're supposed to have the same image for different images.
Correct. So April, you'll have your motion with you in it. Soul Angel will have her motion with her in it. Yeah. So I definitely don't want, you know, a bunch of Jesus everywhere or a bunch of Ray, you know, everywhere. Let it be your motion, right? Absolutely. Which is why this is partnered too.
And this is going to be here.
Correct. Right where your installation is.
Okay.
Correct. Yes, please use your installation.
No, I'm just trying to figure out what.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they have to be in color?
They can be in color. Yeah.
But is it okay for in black and white?
It's okay if they're in black and white, but I would increase the contrast or brightness. That way it prints okay.
Okay.
Otherwise it kind of just gets all blurry.
Okay.
But absolutely, you could choose black and white.
Okay.
Good question. Anything else, guys? Sweet. Well, I'll go ahead and stop the recording.